Om Ajnanatimurandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Godavani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatir Anyata, Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaur, Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you have any message for me, put it in the chat box. If there's any information or question or something you want to tell me during the program, put it in the chat feature. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Jasodanandana Gopi Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Radha Ramana Hari, Govinda Jaya Jaya. Today's program is a very interesting narration. It is the story of how Tulasi became the wife of Lord Narayan. This is from one of the Puranas. And we begin by invoking auspiciousness by chanting the 12-syllable mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narada Muni once questioned Lord Narayan, how did the pure, chaste Tulsi Devi become his wife? Lord Narayan then related the following account. There was once a devotee, his name was Vrishadwaja, and he was fanatically devoted to Lord Shiva, so much so that he did not revere Lord Narayan, the goddess Lakshmi, or any of the other demigods. And yet, out of fear of Lord Shiva, the other demigods did not curse Vrishadwaja. But one day, Surya, no longer able to restrain his wrath, cursed Vrishadwaja that he would now lose his wealth and prosperity. But when Lord Shiva heard of this curse, he became angry. Seizing his trident, Shiva ran after Suryadev. Surya first took shelter of his father Kasyapa Muni, but he then took shelter of Lord Brahma while being pursued by Lord Shiva himself. But Lord Brahma was also afraid of Lord Shiva, and so he took Surya and Kasyapa Muni with him to the abode of Lord Narayan in Vaikuntha. Lord Narayan immediately bestowed his mercy and granted them fearlessness. So at this time, I am praying that Krishna blesses all of you with fearlessness. May Lord Narayan make you fearless in this material existence. Lord Narayan bestowed his mercy, but while Lord Narayan was speaking, Lord Shiva finally arrived. Coming in contact with Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva then assumed a cheerful disposition and worshiped the Lord with his 5 mouths. And this is because Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. So when Lord Shiva comes in contact with Lord Narayan, he becomes very happy. By this time, however, King Vrishadwaja and his son had already died, and that is because time is calculated differently. So a moment in Vaikuntha is yugas and yugas here in the material realm. Vrishadwaja's grandson begot 2 noble sons, whose names were Dharmadwaj and Kushadwaj. Both of them were great Vaishnavas, and they performed severe asceticism and worshipped goddess Lakshmi. King Dharmadwaja was then married to Madhavi, who became pregnant with a partial incarnation of goddess Lakshmi. And on an auspicious day and moment, when there was a full moon in the month of Kartik, on a Friday, Madhavi gave birth, and by the grace of the goddess of fortune Lakshmi, manifested as her baby. There were marks of the lotus flower on the infant's feet. Her face looked like the autumnal moon. Her eyes resembled blooming lotuses, and her lips appeared red like the ripe bimba fruit. Her palms and the soles of her feet were also reddish. Her navel was deep, and just above it were 3 folds. And the light shining from her body surrounded her like a halo. Her complexion was white like that of a champaka flower, and her hair looked very beautiful. And so, because her beauty was incomparable, the sages named her Tulasi. At the end of this narration, we will hear 8 different names of Tulasi given to her by Lord Krishna. So here is one of the names. Incomparable beauty, her name is Tulasi. Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha. As soon as she was born, Tulasi resolved to go to the mountainous region of Badrinath in order to practice severe austerities. Though many persons tried to dissuade her, no one was able to do so, for Tulasi was determined to stay and pray in the forest until Lord Krishna appeared and agreed to become her husband. This reminds me of Rukmini. Rukmini had heard about Krishna from Narada Muni, and simply by hearing about Krishna, Rukmini decided that she was prepared to practice austerities and penances, even if it took 100 births. But all she wanted was Krishna as her husband. And of course, Krishna came on Rukmini's marriage day when she was supposed to be married to Shishupal. And Krishna came on his chariot and stole Rukmini from Shishupal. During a period of 100,000 celestial years, what's a celestial year? I will tell you. 1 year on earth is a celestial day and night. So 360 earth years is 1 year, celestial year. So she performed penances for 100,000 celestial years. And she endured extreme penances and austerities. Finally, when Lord Brahma appeared riding on his swan carrier, Tulasi addressed him. O Lord, formerly I was a cowherder girl in Goloka, and there I served Srimati Radharani, the most beloved of Sri Krishna. Indeed, I am a partial expansion of Radharani, and I was her favorite companion. But one day, in the place where the Rasa dance had occurred, Krishna became intimate with me, and out of excessive joy I fainted. And while I was lying there, Radha suddenly appeared and saw me in such a condition, and she was not at all pleased. Blinded with fury, Radha first reproached Krishna and then cursed me. O vile one, now go take birth as a human being on planet Earth. But then Krishna spoke to me. O Tulasi, when you take birth in India, if you practice austerities, Lord Brahma will grant you a blessing, and he will arrange for you to marry my incarnation as the 4-armed Narayan. Narayan is my personal expansion. Narayan has 4 arms, and I have 2. Then Krishna disappeared, and out of fear of Radha, I left Goloka and was born in this earth. So my dear Lord Brahma, please grant me that boon. I want to have that handsome, peaceful Narayan as my husband. Lord Brahma replied, O Tulasi, Sudama was a partial expansion of Krishna. So this is a different Sudama than the Brahmin friend of Krishna that we read about in Dwaraka. This is a different Sudama. This is Sudama, the cowherder boy. Sudama was a partial expansion of Krishna and was one of Krishna's cowherder boyfriends in Goloka. And as a result of a curse again by Radharani, Sudama is presently living on earth, but he is among the demons. His name is Shankachuda. Oh, he is very energetic, and no one can compare with him in strength. While living in Goloka, he was very attracted to you, Tulsi, and wanted to marry you. But because he feared Radha, he did not make any advances towards you. And just as you know about your previous birth, this Shankachuda is also aware of his previous birth. Remembering his past desire to get close to you, Shankachuda has also performed severe austerities to obtain you as his wife, and I now wish to grant his desire. Therefore, O beautiful one, you should agree to wed him. Later on, however, by the special arrangement of providence, you will get the beautiful Narayan as your husband. But after that, Narayan will curse you, and you will be transformed into the purifying Tulsi tree. You will be the best of flowers and dearer to Lord Narayan than his own life. No one's worship will be complete without your leaves. You will remain as a tree in Vrindavan, and you will be widely known as Vrindavani. So here is the second of the 8 names of Tulsi, Vrindavani. The cowherder men and women will worship Lord Hari with your leaves. And as the presiding deity of the Tulsi plant, you will always enjoy the company of Krishna, who is the best of cowherder boys. Desiring to become free from fear of Radharani, Tulsi was initiated into the 16-lettered mantra, and she was also initiated into the mode of worship of Radharani. We, in Hare Krishna movement, we chant the 32-syllable mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I have not been able to research this 16-lettered mantra in worship of Srimati Radharani. But if I do find it, I will let you know at that time. After 12 years, Tulsi attained success at Badarik Ashram. Once in her dreams, she saw a nicely dressed, smiling, jolly youth who was adorned with jewels, besmeared with sandal paste, and garlanded with flowers. Gathering at her feet, she spoke to her affectionately and embraced and kissed her repeatedly. Prajapati Daksha gave Kashyapa 13 of his daughters in marriage. One of them was named Danu, and she gave birth to Viprachiti. His son was Damba, and he went to the Pushkar forest and performed severe austerities for 100,000 years in order to get a son. And while uttering a Krishna mantra, an intolerable effulgence shot out from Dumba's head, spreading effulgence everywhere. That effulgence was so hot that all the demigod sages and manus were scorched. With Indra leading them, they all sought shelter of Lord Brahma, who then led them to the abode of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu encouraged and pacified the demigods. Seeing that Dumba was chanting his holy name, the Lord granted his request, and a powerful and courageous son. He would be a devotee. He would be invincible to the demigods, and he would be the conqueror of the three worlds. Thus, Dumba's wife gave birth to Shankachuda, who was actually Sudama, one of Lord Krishna's leading cowherder companions, who had been cursed by Radharani. Later on, in order to obtain a boon from Lord Brahma, Shankachuda performed austerities in Pushkar for a long time. Lord Brahma then gave Shankachuda a divine amulet of Lord Sri Krishna. This amulet, called Sarva Mangala Maya, or Conqueror of the Universe, was considered the most auspicious of all auspicious things in the world, for it guaranteed victory everywhere. Blessing him that he would be able to marry Tulasi, Lord Brahma instructed Shankachuda to go to Badarik Ashram, and thus he tied that most precious amulet around his neck. When Shankachuda approached Tulasi, she first of all tested his knowledge and character. She deftly pointed out the negative realities of mundane female association. However, Shankachuda responded by saying that there are women born in 3 different modes of nature, and those in the modes of passion and ignorance are to be rejected. But those in the mode of goodness are praiseworthy because of their chastity. Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, Savitri, and Radha. These women are expansions of those in the mode of goodness. They are glorious and very commendable, such as Shatarupa, Devahuti, Swadha, Swaha, Dakshina, Anasuya, Ganga, Aditi, Vedavati. In every yuga cycle, these women are considered excellent. Shankachuda thus explained how he was following the order of Lord Brahma in order to marry her according to the Gandharva rite, and he informed her of his previous life as Sudama in Goloka. Shankachuda enjoyed his kingdom for 1 manvantara. There are 14 manus in 1 day of Brahma. So this manvantara period is a long period of earth years. Gaining control over all the devas, danavas, gandharvas, kinnaras, and rakshasas, Shankachuda enjoyed his kingdom. The others, the devas, danavas, gandharvas, etc., were sobbing, and they related to Lord Brahma the whole story of how Shankachuda had thoroughly oppressed them. Lord Brahma took them to Lord Shiva, who then took them all to the highest place of all, Vaikuntha Loka. Again, this shows how Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, the greatest Vaishnava. All the demigods went to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma took them to Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva said, no, we should go see Lord Hari. Upon arriving, Lord Narayan spoke, O demigods, that expert mystic and devotee Shankachuda will soon return to Goloka. Therefore, take my trident and go quickly down to earth. Lord Shiva will kill this Shankachuda with my trident. However, that demon is wearing my auspicious amulet around his neck. And as long as he keeps wearing it, no one can kill him. It seems I will have to go to Shankachuda, disguised as a Brahmana, and beg for that amulet. But you, Lord Brahma, have also granted him the boon that he cannot die unless his wife's chastity is violated. So I will have to take care of this as well. Then Shankachuda will surely die. And later, when his wife leaves her body, she will become my dearest wife. Then Lord Narayan gave Lord Shiva his trident. The leader of the Gandharvas was named Pushpadanta, and he was sent by Lord Shiva as a messenger to Shankachuda, informing him of the impending war being waged by the demigods. Shankachuda replied that he would personally go to Lord Shiva the next morning. Meanwhile, an army of millions gathered around Lord Shiva, and they were headed by Kartikeya and Bhadrakali herself, and she was manifesting 10 arms. When Shankachuda went to see Tulasi, she informed him of a bad dream she had experienced the night before. Shankachuda comforted her with cogent Krishna-conscious philosophy regarding the harsh facts of material existence. Shankachuda told Tulasi, "O my lovely wife, Providence has united us, and Providence will also separate us. When danger comes, only the fool is disturbed, whereas the wise are never shaken." So this providence is known as Daiva. This concept is explained in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. What is providence? What is Daiva? The hand of God. Ultimately, it refers to Paramatma, the Supersoul, Krishna in the heart, who is overseeing and permitting everything that's going on in this material world. These are the two functions of Paramatma. Anumanta hi upadrashta. We find these words in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. We have an expression in English: man proposes, but God disposes. So living entities, human beings, we make so many endeavors, but not everybody is successful. Why? The hand of God is there. He is the one saying yes. He is the one saying no. And what makes God say yes or no? It is the strength of your devotion. It is the strength to your religiousness. It is the power of your piety. This explains why the Pandavas were successful in the battle of Kurukshetra and the Kurus were not. So we must understand providence is the hand of God sanctioning, overseeing, and permitting all of our activities. So what can we do? We have to do our part. We have to execute our duties to the best of our ability. It's not that Krishna told Arjuna, you sit on the chariot, smoke ganja, and I'll do everything. Arjuna had to fight. And he was in a precarious condition many times. But all Krishna wanted Arjuna to do was execute his duty to the fullest extent, not slack off. He had to give full endeavor. But the result, that's up to Krishna. We must never forget that. We have to do our part, full endeavor, intelligence, acting piously. But the result, that's not up to us. It's not in our hand. That's up to Krishna in the heart. So just do your prescribed duties and depend on Krishna. I have a friend here in America. He is a Bihari. He's from Bihar. And his favorite verse of Bhagavad Gita that he learned from me is Bhagavad Gita 8:7, where Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudhyacha. This is a very important verse of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna told Arjuna, go on fighting, but at the same time, remember me. That's all we have to do in our lives. Every one of us, whether you're a man, woman, child, Sake, pay attention. You have to do your prescribed duty as husband, as father, as wife, as child. Yes, children have duties. What is the children's duty? Obey the parents. This is why Hindu parents love my preaching, because I stress this point. Children have to obey the parents. Yes. It's there in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in case you're interested where I'm getting this from. We have to do our prescribed duty to the best of our ability, but the result is up to Krishna. Let's get back to the story of Tulasi. Spending the evening together in a temple of gems, Shankachuda carefully conveyed to Tulasi all the spiritual instructions he had received previously from Lord Krishna himself in the Bandira forest. And those instructions are capable of destroying all sorrows and delusions. As far as we are concerned, those instructions are Bhagavad Gita. You learn one book perfectly, Sake. You learn Bhagavad Gita perfectly, you'll have everything you need to know to be successful in life. Upon receiving these instructions, Tulsi's joy knew no bounds, for she realized that everything in this world is but temporary. Shankachuda emerged from the pavilion, riding upon a fine chariot, and then departed for the camp of Lord Shiva, all the while remembering Lord Hari. So this is exactly what I was saying. Bhagavad Gita 8:7. Here Shankachuda is about to go into battle, but what is he doing? Remembering Lord Hari. That's why we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When Shankachuda arrived, Lord Shiva was sitting in yogic meditation at the root of a fig tree. He was looking as brilliant as 1,000,000 suns, and he was smiling. He had 5 faces, 3 eyes in each. Lord Shiva spoke many things, trying to philosophically convince Shankachuda not to wage war. Finally, Lord Shiva said, I am known by the name Mrityunjay, and by my knowledge I have conquered death. Shankachuda countered all of Lord Shiva's arguments, and Lord Shiva responded adequately back. Finally, Lord Shambhu said, "There is no point in continuing this useless talk. Now, either return the demigods their kingdoms, or to prepare to fight with me. I am now quite firm in my determination." Then the battle ensued. After Shankachuda hurled an invincible spear, which was filled with Lord Vishnu's energy, Kartikeya dropped down unconscious on the battlefield. Infuriated, Goddess Kali discharged many weapons against Shankachuda, but he skillfully avoided being killed. Then, Goddess Kali discharged the Narayan weapon. Seeing it coming at him, Shankachuda jumped off his chariot and bowed down to the weapon, causing the weapon to zoom upwards. The fight between Shankachuda and Goddess Kali continued for a long time, while all the demigods and demons just stood by watching. As she readied herself to throw the Pashupata weapon, a heavenly voice from the sky cried out, "O goddess, do not throw your missile at Shankachuda, for as long as Lord Hari's amulet remains on his neck, and as long as his wife's chastity is not violated, this demon king cannot be killed, even with the never-failing weapon you hold in your hand." Feeling hungry, Goddess Kali began drinking the blood and eating the fat and flesh of the demons. The only demons alive were the ones who crawled out of her mouth while she was chewing them, and that amounted to about 100,000. The fight between Lord Shiva and Shankachuda lasted for 1 year, but neither would admit defeat. Suddenly, Lord Shiva grabbed his trident to kill Shankachuda, but an unembodied heavenly voice ordered him to desist. Just then, Lord Vishnu appeared on the scene and agreed to help the demigods as promised. Lord Vishnu was disguised as an old aged Brahmana. He approached Shankachuda and requested him to grant his request before even telling him what his request actually was. The noble Shankachuda assented and swore that he would give the Brahmana whatever he asked for. And so Lord Vishnu, disguised as a Brahmin, said with affection, "Oh, Shankachuda, I would like that amulet that you are wearing." Shankachuda was a well-wisher of the truthful Brahmanas, and so he handed over to Lord Vishnu the amulet. Then Lord Vishnu assumed the form of Shankachuda and went to the palace of Tulasi Devi. So just see, first Lord Vishnu disguised himself as a Brahmin, went to Shankachuda and asked for the amulet. So once that amulet's with him, Shankachuda is no longer invincible. Now he has to do something with Tulsi. So what does he do? He disguises himself as Shankachuda. This is why I love Krishna and Lord Vishnu and Narayan. They do things that are beyond anyone's ability. This is so fantastic. This is why I'm a Krishna devotee. I became a Krishna devotee because I read the life story of Krishna. And I said, this is it. Now I know who is God. I was not raised Hindu. I was raised to believe in God, yes. But the religion I was trained, they don't have much information about God. Very little. But when I came to Gita, Bhagavatam, so much information about God, I said, this is God. Here is God, Krishna. That was back in 1973 when I became convinced Krishna is God. Best decision I ever made in my life, and look at me now. It's all because of Krishna. When Lord Vishnu approached the entrance, he created the appearance of a victory homecoming, causing others to beat drums and to shout, "Victory! Victory!" When Tulasi realized that her husband had returned, she observed all auspicious rites and offered gifts to the Brahmins. After deceiving her, by explaining how everything was now settled peacefully between the demons and demigods, Lord Vishnu, disguised as Shankachuda, lay down on a bed with Tulsi Devi and became intimate with her. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield, without his armor, King Shankachuda approached Lord Shiva. Shiva seized his blazing trident Vijay in order to slay the demon. It was as bright as 100 summer suns. Lord Shiva raised the trident high, aimed and hurled it at Shankachuda. Seeing it coming, the demon king dropped his bow and arrows, collected his mind, sat down in a yoga posture, and meditated on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna with great devotion. The trident whirled around Shankachuda's head for some time. Then, upon Lord Shiva's command, the trident smashed into the demon's head and burned him and his chariot, burning it to ashes. Thereafter, the trident returned to Lord Shiva and then left for the airways at the speed of the mind, finally returning with force and gladness to Lord Narayan, who had originally loaned it to Lord Shiva. Out of compassion, Lord Shiva tossed the demon's bones into the sea, and these bones became transformed into all the conch shells in the world. Lord Shiva then mounted his bull carrier and with all of his followers returned to his own residence. All the demigods also returned to their abodes with great joy. Before leaving, Lord Shiva favored Shankachuda by releasing him from the curse of Radharani, and thus Shankachuda regained his original form as the cowherder boy Sudama, adorned with jewels, holding a flute, mounting a divine chariot, and surrounded by numerous cowherder boys from Goloka Vrindavan. Sudama flew to the spiritual sky, Goloka. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Tulsi Devi was still lying on the bed with what she thought was Shankachuda, but it was actually Lord Vishnu disguised as Shankachuda. But suddenly, Tulsi realized that there was a distinct difference in the way her husband expressed affection to her in the past from the way he had just expressed. This made Tulsi suspicious, and she began to wonder whether the man whom she had just been with was actually her husband. Now, not feeling the same happiness, affection, and attraction, Tulsi looked at him distrustfully. You're not. Realizing in the core of her heart that this person was not her husband, she then asked, "Who are you? I am very angry. Tell me, who are you?" "Yes, I want to know immediately, for I know you have deceived me. You have outraged my modesty, and for this I shall curse you." Lord Vishnu then assumed his own true, beautiful, four-armed form. Tulsi then saw the Lord of the demigods before her. Her complexion was deep blue, like the fresh rain clouds. His eyes were like autumnal lotuses, and he was bedecked with jewels and ornaments. His smiling face looked very gracious, and he was wearing a yellow robe. Seeing the handsome form of Vasudeva, Tulsi fainted. A few moments later, she regained consciousness. "Oh Lord, you are like a stone. You are so merciless. You violated my chastity by deception. And by this means, you have killed my husband. Oh Lord, you are merciless. Yes, your heart is like a stone. I therefore curse you to become a stone." Overpowered with grief and sadness, Tulsi cried loudly and repeatedly lamented. Seeing Tulsi so upset, Narayan, who is an ocean of mercy, tried to console her according to religious principles. "O exalted Tulsi, you performed austerities for a long time just to get me as your wife. And Shankachuda also performed austerities for a long time to get you as his wife. And by that austerity, he has fulfilled his wish. And so it was then necessary for me to fulfill your desire. For this reason, I behaved the way I did. Now, leave your earthly body and assume now a spiritual body and be married to me eternally. Be like Lakshmi. Your body will become famous, the river known as Gandaki, a virtuous, pure, and transparent river in this holy land of Bharatavarsha. Your hairs will be transformed into holy trees, and since these trees will be born of you, they will be known as Tulsi trees. All the residents of the three worlds will perform worship with the leaves and flowers of your tree. Thus you, Tulsi, will reign as the best among trees and flowers. O Tulsi, you will live in sacred places, and you will bestow the highest religious merit. All the holy places will converge and reside at the root of the Tulsi tree, and thus spiritual merits will accrue to everyone. O fair one, all the demigods and I myself will wait there to gather your falling leaves. Lord Hari will not be as pleased with the gift of 1,000 jars of honey as he will with one Tulsi leaf. If at the time of death one drinks or gets the Tulsi leaf water, one will be freed of all of one's seeds and proceed to Vaikuntha. Anyone who worships me with this leaf daily will reap the blessings of 100,000 horse sacrifices. Anyone who leaves their body holding a tulsi leaf in one's hands will be saved from all sins. Anyone who wears a necklace composed of tulsi wood will surely at every step get the reward of a horse sacrifice. So these neck beads, kanti mal, that I wear, these are tulsi. They never come off. Because according to the teachings of the Vedas, if one dies and wearing the tulsi necklace, the Yamadutas do not approach. In fact, they pay their obeisances and they run away. So if you're not wearing tulsi necklace, immediately get tulsi necklace and start wearing it. At least one strand. Everyone must wear tulsi mala. I call it spiritual insurance. You have insurance for your business, for your home, for your cars, for your family. Now this is personal insurance. Tulsi mala, like that. O Tulsi, you will always be the presiding deity of the Tulsi plant here on earth. And at the same time, you will sport with Sri Krishna in solitude in Goloka. You will also be the presiding deity of the Gandaki River and thereby shower Bharatavarsha with religious merit. Furthermore, you will be the wife of the ocean of salt water, which is my partial expansion. O chaste goddess, you will always remain personally by my side and enjoy my company just as Lakshmi does. Now, as for me, because of your curse, I must become a stone and remain close to the bank of the Gandaki River. Millions of Vajrakiti worms with their sharp teeth will make convolutions or rings in the stones, and they will represent me. These stones will be known as Shalagrams, or sacred stones. Just a note here. When they have deities in temples, the deities have to be installed by the Acharya. Mantras have to be chanted, rituals have to be performed, and it's a ceremony where you install the deity for permanent residence. But a Shalagram Shila requires no installation. It is directly God Himself without installation. And that's why one has to be very careful. If you have Shalagram Shila, you have to be very, very careful, because if you commit any offense, you will be punished severely, because that Shalagram Shila is directly God Himself. So I know many Hindu families have Shalagram Shilas. Please be very careful. Don't make any offenses in the worship. I would hate to see reactions. When Lord Hari stopped speaking, Tulsi left her earthly form, assumed a celestial form, and went to Vaikuntha. Lord Hari also went with her, and therefore she frequented his heart. Sometime later, once when there was worship of the Lord, Tulsi was offered a lighted ghee lamp, frankincense, sandal flowers, and sacrificial offerings. Anyone who worships Tulsi in this way will achieve complete perfection. The Lord at that time began to praise his glorious devotee. Obeisances to Tulsi Devi, Queen of Vrindavan Forest. Because the Tulsi trees collect in many groups, the pundits call her Vrinda. Everybody say, Vrinda. These are the 8 names of Tulsi. Long ago, Tulsi appeared in Vrindavan Forest and is thus known as Vrindavani. Everyone say, Vrindavani. I adore that auspicious and glorious one. Number 3. Tulsi is always worshipped in countless universes, and so is known as Vishva Pujita. Everyone can say, Vishva Pujita, one who is worshipped throughout the 3 worlds. I myself worship that Vishva Pujita. 4. Countless universes are made pure and holy by her contact. Thus, she is called Vishva Pavani. Everyone say, Vishva Pavani, one who purifies the whole universe. Remembering her, I suffer separation. Although other flowers may be heaped upon the demigods, they are not satisfied unless Tulsi is offered. Thus, she is considered the essence of all flowers and is called Pushpasar. Everybody say, Pushpasar. Whoa! I am now anguished and troubled, and very eager to see Tulsi, who is purity incarnate. I do crave her the favor of that goddess. Number 6. Because attainment of Tulsi brings faith and joy, she is called Nandani. Everyone can say, Nandani. Oh, may Nandani be pleased with me. Number 7. In the whole world she is incomparable. Thus she is called Tulasi. Everybody say, Tulsi. I take refuge of that dear Tulsi. Being very chaste and dear, she is the life of Lord Sri Krishna, and so she is known as Krishna Jivani. Everyone can say, Krishna Jivani. Oh, may that goddess save my life. So let's go over those 8 names again. Vrinda, Vrindavani, Vishvapujita, Vishvapavani, Pushpasar, Nandani, Tulsi, Krishna, Jivani. So we will end the program by singing the bhajan, Tulsi Kirtan. And then I will bless all of you individually, since you agreed to attend this wonderful program. Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pabo Yabi Lashi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Ye Tomar Sharan Lord Darvancha Purna Hoy Kripa Kori Korotare Vrindavana Vasi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha More e abilash vilas kunje ioa nayane he vibo sada yugala rupa rashi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Enyuve Danadhara Shakiranu Gatakoro Sheva Adi Karadiye Kora Nija Dasi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Dina Krishna Dase Koi Eyena Moraha Sri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayina Basi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Radha Krishna Seva Pabo E Abhilashi Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahmahatyadi Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranasyanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Vrindaya Tulsi Devai Priyaye Kesavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Pradi Devi Satyavatya Namo Namaha. O Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again, for my desire is to obtain the service of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has their wishes fulfilled. Please remember that. You have desires, wishes, take shelter of Tulsi, she will fulfill. Bestowing your mercy, you make anyone a resident of Vrindavan. And so my desire is that you will also give me a residence in the pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavana Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. And I beg you to make me a follower of the cowherder damsels of Braja, the gopis. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, may I always swim in the love of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. And when a person circumambulates Srimati Tulsi Devi, all the sins one may have committed are destroyed at every step, even the sin of killing a Brahmana. Jai Vishnupa Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Astotra Sattva Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Syamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Yamuna Devi ki jai. Ganga Devi ki jai. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the Santiago devotees. All glories to the Santiago devotees. All glories to the Santiago children, devotees especially. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.